Chapter 5. Not an empty threat. Emerson stood in the kitchen, filling her plate with eggs, adding an unhealthy amount of sriracha sauce on top. Cruz stood by her side, listening to her blab on and on about how she never tasted it before coming to Chicago and how she couldn't get enough of it. Right as he was about to cut her off, getting tired of hearing her newfound love for the sauce, they heard the bells go. Saved by the bells, he thought. The call went by smoothly for Ambulance 61, as they didn't have much to do except wait and make sure nobody needed assistance. Although when Emerson found Gabby sitting in a shower stall later, she figured it didn't go so well for everyone. She pulled the shower curtain, her head tilting to the side curiously, before taking a few seconds to observe the new firefighter. "Everything okay?" Gabby only sighed, and that was enough of an answer for the paramedic. She sat next to her in the shower stall and just waited for her to open up. It didn't take long before Gabby explained to her how Matt reprimanded her for the initiative she took on the call. After a long talk, they came to the conclusion that Matt was right. Gabby went over his head on the call, and she shouldn't have acted like this, even if what she did actually worked. Emerson encouraged her to get out of the bathrooms and back to the apparatus floor to clear her mind by doing literally anything else than mull over what happened. Ambulance 61, injured male, Cordova High School, 3317 South Garfield. Emerson rushed to the rig with Mills hot on her hell, jumping in the driver's seat right away. She was more than ready to take on whatever that call was going to be, or so she thought. As the paramedics entered the high school with their stretched and jump bag, heading straight to the pool area where they were warmly greeted by a bunch of teenagers. "Over here! Hurry! Make him breathe, please! Please, make him breathe!" Mills bent next to the kid right away, taking off his jacket while Emerson prepared the monitor and the pads. Mills quickly began chest compression as Emerson stuck the pads on him. The paramedic stepped back as the kid started coughing up water. "Jason," a girl exclaimed. Mills helped him sit up. "Come on up. You're all right. You okay? You all right, Jason? It's all right. Just sit there, catch your breath, okay?" "What happened?" the boy questioned as Peter rolled the stretcher closer to him while Emerson took his vital signs. "You went into the pool and then suddenly stopped moving. You were like floating," the girl explained. "Pressure's good. Lungs are clear. How you feeling, Jason?" Mills asked the boy, putting his hand on his shoulder. "I'm okay, I guess." "Okay, Mills gestured for another boy to come closer. "We're gonna get you up nice and slow. All right? Right onto the stretcher. Is he gonna be okay? That CPR you did saved his life," Emerson stated, looking at the teenager beside her. "Alexis, just please don't tell my father," the boy pleaded, seeming desperate for his father to not know what happened to him. "Danny already called him," she guiltily admitted, which made the boy groan in disappointment. "Dude, we thought you were dead," the boy, most likely Danny, argued from the back. "Jason," a loud voice yelled, approaching them as they began rolling him away and towards the exit. "Sir, he was unconscious for a few minutes. Seems to be lucid now. Breathing fine on his own. We're going to take him to the hospital where they can do a full exam on him there." Mills informed the father quickly, gesturing for him to slow down. "I'm fine, Dad, really." "What hospital?" the father asked, looking straight into Emerson's eyes, sending a chill down her spine. She never really liked authority figures, and he did not inspire her anything good. "Chicago Med," she let him know, quickly rolling him away and into the rig where Mills helped him settle down as Emerson drove them towards Med. "Damn it, secondary drowning. Call back Chicago Med. Let them know he's going into respiratory arrest." Mills yelled from the back, making her step a little heavier on the accelerator. "Chicago Med, this is Ambulance 61. Our patient just coded and went into cardiac arrest. Our ETA is a minute out." Emerson called into the radio, driving across the streets of Chicago with as much focus as she could, while still trying to listen to what was happening in the back of the ambo. "Copy that, Ambulance 61. We'll prep for your arrival." They arrived shortly, rushing him into the ER as doctors met them halfway, while Emerson kept bagging him. "Pulmonary edema, he's in PEA, been about 6 minutes. He was resuscitated at the scene, but went into arrest en route. We gave him 1 epi," Emerson added, rolling him towards the bed they prepared for him. They transferred him on the bed, and as soon as they could, Emerson and Peter stepped back to give them space to work with. They helplessly watched as the doctors called the time of death, stopping everything they were doing to help him. Emerson could see in her new partner's eyes that he was affected by it. She put her hand on his shoulder, gently squeezing it. There was no more you could do. The paramedics eventually left the hospital, hearing a lot of commotion coming from outside the hospital. As they walked up to their rig, they noticed a lot of reporters standing around it and trying to get closer. "Yo, what's going on?" Mills questioned the security guard who was trying to keep everyone away from the hospital. "Guess the kid that got brought in was Jason Lullo, Papa Lullo's son." "Who is that?" Emerson asked upon noticing the look on both of their faces. "Papers call him the John Gotti of Chicago," the security guard added, and it didn't help Emerson much, but at least it gave her an idea. They loaded their things back in the rig, more than ready to head back to the firehouse and get some much-needed rest. Back at the firehouse, Emerson and Peter walked in to Otis, Mouch, and Cruz, crouching down and enthusiastically calling the dog towards them. They stopped in their step, and immediately all three men stopped to look at the two paramedics. "What happened?" "We lost a kid," Mills said, his tone flat and lacking emotions. They were all silent for a couple of seconds, letting it sink in. "Sorry to hear that." Mouch eventually spoke for all of them. Emerson nodded at them, walking off to be alone. As soon as shift was over, she rushed home in hopes to sleep the day off. Emerson woke up approximately at diner time, so she made herself some food and enjoyed it in front of her favorite TV show. Once a few hours passed, she figured she might as well try to enjoy her night. Emerson fixed herself up and made her way to Molly's, hoping someone she knew would also be looking for someone to vent to. And turns out it was her lucky night, because as soon as she stepped foot inside, her eyes fell on Jay sitting at the bar. Emerson walked up to him, catching his attention as she spoke. "This seat taken?" Jay looked up at her instantly, gesturing for her to sit down as he gulped down the sip he'd just taken. "You look like you've had a rough day," he remarked, instantly noticing the way her eyes seemed tired and lacking the light they usually held. Her tone was flatter than usual, too. "Yeah, rough shift. Slept the whole day away before I decided to come down here and see if anyone else was in dire need of a distraction." She half-heartedly smiled at him, hearing a light chuckle come from his throat. Emerson ordered a beer, turning to Jay. "So, what's your reason to be here on your own?" He shrugged. "Long case finally over." "Oh, so you're celebrating." Emerson added a little more enthusiasm to her tone, raising her glass up for a toast. "To your case being over." He laughed, raising his own beer up to meet hers. "And to your day being over." Their glasses clinked before each of them brought their respective drinks to their lips. "Do you want to talk about it?" Emerson wasn't sure she did at first, but then she figured why not talk about it. After all, if someone could understand, it was Jay. "We lost a kid today, and, the boy's girlfriend was so relieved when he was all right. I told her she saved his life." Emerson told him, making meaningless gestures with her hands as she tried to pick the right words to say. Jay's lips were pulled into a thin line, feeling empathy for the paramedic sitting next to him. He knew how much it sucked to lose someone on the job. It happened to him a few times over the years. "I'm sorry." He also knew there was no good words to say. She shrugged. "Yeah, well, sadly it happens. We can't save them all." Emerson trailed off, swirling the liquid around in her glass. "But we can do anything to get our minds off it, right?" She raised her glass up, bringing back to her lips instantly to gulp down almost half of it. Jay raised his eyebrows, seemingly impressed by how fast she drank her beer with no mess at all. As someone who once used drinking as a way to forget his messes, he knew it wasn't the best idea, so he figured maybe he could at least help her find another way. "You know what?" His words caught her attention. "What do you usually do to relax, or whenever you have free time?" Emerson thought about it for a few seconds. Her eyes trailed up to the ceiling, deep in thoughts. She hummed after a little while. "I do like cooking a lot." She paused for a few seconds before pointing a finger at him. "Do not tell anyone at the firehouse I said that." "Promise? I won't." He chuckled. a smile lingering on his lips as he noticed the light in her eyes. She really did love cooking. Jay entertained the conversation, asking her about this hobby of hers. She got really serious when she began telling him all about his newfound love for sriracha sauce and how she found a chicken wings recipe. Emerson truly wanted to try it, and she even found herself buying wings so she could try them. Jay enjoyed listening to her. Even if she was talking about the simplest thing, somehow she made it interesting. He'd never met anyone who spoke about sriracha sauce and made it feel like it was the most interesting subject. She was mesmerizing, and he truly enjoyed her company. It was refreshing to the detective. I mean, if you picked up some wings, maybe we could try out that recipe? I'd apply to help out, he told her, lightly shrugging. Emerson smiled from ear to ear, appreciating the offer. She was just about to decline, not wanting to take up more of his time. Just so you know, I make a great sous chef. She laughed, looking down at her lap for a short second before looking back into his beautiful blue eyes. All right. Another shift went by quickly, and the paramedics had almost gone through the entire 48 hours without thinking about the kid they lost earlier in the week. They were quickly reminded when they walked out the firehouse and the boy's father. Emerson froze in her step as Mills stood up tall, waiting for the father to walk closer. You, he exclaimed in a threatening manner, rushing towards them after forcefully shutting his car door. You son of a bitch. His words were directed towards Mills, since Emerson was practically hiding behind him. Hey, hold on, man, Peter spoke, his arms in the air as if to show that he didn't want any problems. You killed my son. You both did. He pointed aggressively at the both of them, and Emerson had rarely ever felt this small. Her eyes widened when he got closer to them and grabbed Mills by his shirt, shoving him into the fire truck. Hey, Mr. Lullo! Emerson snapped out of it and yelled, trying to pull the man off of her partner. Just hold on! My son! Mr. Lullo yelled at the same time as Mills, staying quiet after. I understand that you're upset. Peter tried to calm him down, but all it truly did was get his hands off of him. You understand nothing. I had to go to the morgue to identify my only son. What can you possibly understand about that? Emerson stepped closer to Peter, her heart loudly beating against her chest. Sir, you're right. We can't comprehend what you're going through, but we do know what your son went through. We were with him the entire time. She tried to keep her tone calm and gentle, but she knew it was coming out shaky and unsure. All I know is he went into that ambulance alive, and he came out dead, and that's on your ass. He yelled right as another car drove right into the firehouse's entrance, stopping beside Lillo's. At this point, the confrontation had caught everyone's attention. Almost the house firehouse was on the apparatus floor, standing behind the paramedics in case they needed them to jump in. That's secondary drowning, okay? A pulmonary edema, Peter informed him, gesturing for everyone to stand back. I heard it all from the doctors. I don't want to hear your pathetic excuses. He yelled again, slamming his hands against Mills's chest to push him back. The men, Emerson supposed were with Lullo, rushed forward to grab the man. The voices only got louder as the firefighters tried pushing him away and the unknown men tried pulling him back. Once they finally got him off, Peter looked him straight in the eyes and spoke. We tried everything to save your boy, and we wish we could have saved him. I'm sorry. The man only glared at him, his chest heaving. You're dead, both of you. The interaction put everyone on high alert and unsure how to react. Lieutenant Casey decided it would be best to involve the police, so a call was quickly made to the intelligence unit, asking them to come to the firehouse to help sort them out. Emerson and Peter sat in Bowden's office, waiting for one of the officers to arrive. The door eventually opened, and Emerson's eyes falling on Jay right away. His eyes scanned the room quickly before landing on her and Mills, a habit he probably picked up because of his work. You two okay? He asked before walking to stand in front of them. They nodded, proceeding to tell him everything that happened. Lullo is the real deal. You've both got to stay on your toes for a while, if you want to press charges. No, Lullo, he's a grieving father. Who can blame him for losing his cool? Peter spoke up, and even though Emerson understood his point, she disapproved. Mills, this is not the type of threat that you let go by. She butted in, You've seen how everyone's scared of him. No way that was an empty threat. I would really rather just talk to him, wait until he calms down. Mills stood up and Emerson scoffed at his words. Luckily for her, Jay cut him off. Bad idea. Mills, I'm not asking you. I am telling you. You let Detective Halstead deal with this. You stay away from him. For yours and Emerson's safety. Bowden spoke up very clearly, making sure his words were understood by the paramedic. Jay glanced at Emerson, noticing the relief in her eyes when he and Chief Bowden sided with her. They shared a look and a smile before Chief Bowden offered him a handshake to thank him for coming over to help. Jay walked off soon after, hoping the dark cloud that was Mr. Lullo would pass.